Hey everyone, welcome to the Bold and Beautiful 24. I'm Alessio, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Bold and Beautiful, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in.
She's your daughter. The words thunder through the air like a courtroom gavel striking wood, a seismic blow that leaves everyone in the room reeling, and it's Nick Marone, of all people, who unleashes the bombshell, pointing his finger squarely at Ridge Forrester as the stunned designer's entire world collapses under the crushing weight of the revelation that Daphne, the young woman who's been floating at the edge of their lives with her quiet eyes and mysterious background, isn't some distant relative, isn't just another face connected through the sprawling web of Los Angeles high society, but in fact, Ridge's own flesh and blood, his daughter, a truth that had been buried under layers of secrecy, deceit, and deliberate manipulation, now ripped wide open in a moment that promises to redefine not just Ridge's sense of self but the entire Forrester dynasty, sending shockwaves through Brooke, Taylor, Steffi, Thomas, and even the extended clan who thought they had already weathered every possible scandal. Yet nothing compares to the revelation that another child has been hidden from Ridge, a living reminder of his past entanglements and the collateral damage left behind by choices made decades ago when passions burned hot, loyalties wavered, and secrets were easier to bury than confront. And as Nick delivers the evidence, cold, undeniable DNA results that prove without a shred of doubt that Daphne is Ridge's biological daughter, he does so with a mixture of bitterness and triumph, because for years Nick has carried his own grudges against Ridge, resentments tied to Brooke, betrayals, battles for love and power, and this revelation isn't just about the truth coming to light, it's about watching Ridge's perfect, carefully constructed world implode as he's forced to face the fact that a daughter he never knew existed has been walking around feeling abandoned, unwanted, and lied to, her life shaped by the absence of a father who, unbeknownst to him, was right there in the same city, living in luxury while she struggled with questions of identity and belonging. And now, with the truth exposed, there is no escaping the fallout. Brooke's face drains of color as she realizes that this child may have been conceived during one of Ridge's stormy breakups, perhaps at a time when she herself was locked in battle with Taylor, which raises the painful possibility that Daphne could represent not just another branch on Ridge's already complicated family tree, but also another scar on the war between Brooke and Taylor, two women who have fought for decades over this man. And as Ridge stammers, tries to process, his mind spinning back through hazy memories of encounters long past, Nick lays out the backstory. Daphne's mother, a woman Ridge may remember only faintly, perhaps someone from the fashion world, perhaps someone caught up in the endless carousel of parties, runways, and affairs that marked Ridge's younger years, kept the pregnancy a secret, whether out of pride, fear, or coercion, and raised Daphne in silence until circumstances forced the truth into the light. But the cruel twist is that Daphne herself discovered the truth before Ridge did, and she has been carrying the unbearable burden of knowing her father was alive and near but unaware of her existence, and it is Nick who chooses to unleash the secret in the most explosive way possible, calling Ridge out publicly, tearing away any chance of a private reconciliation, because Nick knows that by detonating this truth in front of everyone, he maximizes the fallout, ensures Ridge has nowhere to hide, and forces the Forresters to reckon with yet another child of Ridge, another heir to the family legacy, another complication in the battle for Forrester creations, inheritance, loyalty, and love. And Daphne herself, standing in the shadows of the room, trembling as the truth is laid bare, finally has her voice, finally has the weight of acknowledgement after years of invisibility, but her pain runs deep. Because she never asked to be born into this chaos, never asked to be a pawn in the endless war between families and lovers, and now she's thrust into the spotlight as everyone stares at her, as Brooke wonders whether she can forgive Ridge for keeping yet another secret, though in truth, he didn't know, and as Taylor's heart lurches with fury at the idea that yet another woman, another relationship from Ridge's past, has given him a child, while Steffi and Thomas, the children who fought so hard to prove themselves, bristle at the thought of having to accept another sibling, someone who may demand a seat at the table, a voice in the family, a claim to the empire. And the magnitude of this revelation reverberates beyond the Forrester mansion, beyond Los Angeles itself, because the DNA proof is ironclad, undeniable, and it throws into question not just Ridge's future but his very identity as a man, as a father, as a partner, because once again Ridge finds himself blindsided by the consequences of his actions, a victim of his own past indulgences, and yet somehow, as broken as he looks in that moment, pale, sweating, desperate to deny what is undeniable, his eyes lock with Daphne's, and in her face he sees his own reflection, the unmistakable imprint of his features, the silent confirmation that no test was needed, that this girl was always his, and the guilt crushes him, because he wasn't there for her birthdays, wasn't there for her first heartbreak, wasn't there to protect her, wasn't there to give her the life she deserved, and Nick, savoring the moment, reminds Ridge of every failure, every selfish choice, driving the knife deeper, until Brooke finally breaks down and pleads with everyone to stop, because whatever the sins of the past, what matters now is that a young woman's life hangs in the balance, that Daphne needs more than DNA, she needs love, acknowledgement, acceptance, and while Ridge's voice cracks as he whispers, "You're my daughter," the room erupts with competing voices, accusations, defenses, promises, threats, but the only sound that matters is Daphne's quiet sob as she realizes the words she's waited her whole life to hear have finally been spoken, though not in the way she dreamed, not in a moment of warmth and welcome, but in an explosion of anger and betrayal, a storm that will forever alter the Forrester family and the balance of power in Los Angeles, because now Ridge must step into the role he never knew he had, and nothing will ever be the same again. The room doesn't just fall silent after Nick's shocking declaration, it vibrates with the unspoken realization that everything, absolutely everything, has shifted in a single moment, and Ridge Forrester, a man who has spent his life juggling the demands of family, business, and passion, is left standing hollow-eyed and exposed, stripped of the illusion of control he always thought he had. The phrase, "She's your daughter," echoes in his head like a haunting mantra, refusing to fade, and as his eyes dart toward Daphne, he feels as though time itself has slowed, trapping him in a haze of disbelief and guilt. For Ridge, the idea of fatherhood has always been complicated. He has Thomas, Steffi, RJ, children with different mothers who have constantly pulled him in competing directions, children whose loyalty has wavered depending on which woman Ridge was with at the time, but now here's another daughter, one he never knew about, one who grew up without his presence, without his guidance, without his love, and the knowledge cuts him deeper than any betrayal he's ever faced. The crowd gathered, Brooke with her trembling hands clasped tight, Taylor with her jaw clenched, Eric watching with the weight of history pressing down, Steffi and Thomas exchanging wary glances, absorbs the revelation with varying degrees of shock and anger, because Daphne's existence doesn't just alter Ridge's life, it shifts the foundation of the entire Forrester family tree. Nick, still holding the DNA report like a loaded weapon, lets his words drip with venom as he reminds Ridge that this isn't some hypothetical, that the science leaves no room for denial. "You always thought you were untouchable, Ridge," Nick sneers, bitterness rising in his throat. "But life has a way of catching up to you. Daphne is your daughter, your responsibility, your blood, and you've ignored her existence for years while she was left alone, wondering why her father didn't want her." It's clear Nick isn't just motivated by truth, he's relishing Ridge's downfall, because their history is long and ugly, filled with betrayals over Brooke, battles for control, and grudges that never faded. To expose Ridge in this way is Nick's form of justice, a public reckoning that ensures the Forrester golden boy can no longer hide behind his charm and charisma. Daphne herself is caught between fury and heartbreak. She never asked Nick to reveal the truth this way, never wanted her deepest wound exposed before an audience, but at the same time, she can't deny the twisted relief of finally being acknowledged. Her eyes lock with Ridge's, and for the first time she sees a flicker of recognition, because she does look like him, unmistakably so, the same sharp cheekbones, the same intensity in her gaze. Ridge swallows hard, trying to form words, but nothing comes out except a broken whisper, "Why didn't anyone tell me?" The question is directed at no one and everyone at once, because the silence that follows is filled with 1,000 unspoken truths. Brooke, ever the emotional center of Ridge's world, steps forward, tears brimming as she clutches his arm, torn between her instinct to comfort him and the anger boiling inside. "How could this have happened, Ridge? How could you not know?" Her voice cracks, exposing the raw mix of betrayal and pity that defines so much of her relationship with him. Taylor, on the other hand, has no such softness. She crosses her arms, eyes narrowed, her tone sharp and unforgiving. Because Ridge has always lived in his own world, Brooke. Always chasing passion, always moving from one woman to another, never thinking about the consequences. And now another child pays the price. Her words slice through Ridge's defenses, leaving him exposed to the judgment of everyone around him. Eric, patriarch of the family, finally speaks with a weary voice that carries both authority and disappointment. Ridge, this family has faced more scandals than I can count, but nothing cuts deeper than children left in the shadows. If Daphne is truly your daughter, then she deserves the same respect, the same love, as any Forrester. The weight of those words lands heavily, because Eric's approval has always been Ridge's guiding star, and the idea that he has failed his father yet again nearly breaks him. The storm spreads quickly beyond the family. Steffi's reaction is immediate and defensive. She grips Thomas's arm tightly, whispering that this changes everything. For Steffi, every sibling is a potential rival, every new child a threat to her place in the family hierarchy and the company. Thomas, however, is less concerned with power and more with the personal betrayal. Another sister, he mutters, shaking his head. How many secrets are we going to find out about Dad? How many more people are going to show up claiming to be Forresters? His cynicism reflects years of disillusionment with Ridge, years of feeling abandoned, dismissed, or overshadowed. But Daphne doesn't care about Forrester creations, or inheritance, or even the rivalry between Brooke and Taylor. All she ever wanted was to know who she was, to look her father in the eye and hear him admit she mattered. And yet, in this moment of revelation, all she feels is exposed, vulnerable, as though she's a spectacle rather than a daughter. She shakes her head, her voice trembling. I didn't want it to happen like this. I didn't want to be your dirty little secret dragged into the light. Her words sting, and Ridge feels them like daggers because they're true. She has been kept in the shadows, whether by design or circumstance, and nothing he says now can undo the years of absence. Nick seizes the moment to twist the knife further. You see, Ridge? This is what your arrogance costs people. You've built your empire on charm and manipulation, but in the end, it's always the innocent who suffer. Daphne deserved better than to grow up wondering why her father didn't want her. His bitterness is palpable, and though some might argue Nick is using the truth as a weapon, no one can deny the impact of his words. Ridge, cornered and stripped of excuses, finally takes a step toward Daphne, his voice raw and unsteady. I swear to you, I didn't know. If I had known, I would have been there. I would have. He cuts himself off, because even as he speaks, he realizes how hollow it sounds. Promises mean nothing to a child who grew up fatherless. His words hang in the air, flimsy and insufficient, and Daphne's tears fall silently, each one a reminder of the years he can never give back. The tension between Brooke and Taylor escalates, because this revelation once again places them on opposite sides of Ridge's fractured life. Brooke's heart breaks for Ridge, but Taylor's fury grows sharper, because she sees this as yet another example of Ridge's reckless past coming back to haunt them all. You always said family was everything, Ridge, she snaps. But how many times have you betrayed that promise? How many times have your children had to suffer for your mistakes? Ridge has no answer. As the chaos unfolds, the larger implications begin to sink in. Daphne isn't just another child, she's an adult with her own experiences, her own pain, and now she has a claim to the Forrester name, the company, the legacy. The idea of her stepping into their world, sitting at their boardroom table, shakes Steffi and Thomas to their core. Brooke, always the strategist when it comes to family politics, realizes this could tear the company apart if not handled delicately. But in that moment, none of that matters to Ridge. All he can think about is the young woman in front of him, the daughter he never knew he had, the daughter who now looks at him with a mix of longing and contempt. The silence that follows is deafening. Ridge finally whispers the words he should have said years ago, "You're my daughter." The room seems to hold its breath, waiting for Daphne's reaction. Her face crumples, torn between the relief of finally hearing the truth and the pain of knowing it comes too late. I've waited my whole life to hear that, she whispers back, but I never wanted it like this. And with that, the fragile possibility of reconciliation hangs in the balance, fragile as glass, ready to shatter at the slightest wrong move, leaving Ridge to grapple with the reality that his life, his family, and his legacy will never be the same again. What follows Nick's explosive revelation is not a simple reckoning, it is a storm with waves crashing against every corner of the Forrester family, each ripple pulling new truths and deeper resentments to the surface. Ridge, still frozen, feels the walls of the world he has built start to cave in. His entire life has been one long, carefully choreographed balancing act, between Brooke and Taylor, between Forrester creations and family, between desire and duty. But in this moment, balance is impossible. He is no longer Ridge the designer, Ridge the lover, Ridge the patriarch, he is just a man stripped bare, a father who failed without even knowing he had. Daphne stands tall, though her eyes glisten with tears that betray her fragile resolve. She has rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times, but never like this, never with Nick pulling the trigger and detonating the secret in public. She once imagined what it might feel like to look Ridge in the eye and hear him say he loved her, that he was sorry he had missed her life, that he wanted to make up for the lost years. But what she's experiencing is nothing close to that, it is messy, angry, humiliating. She feels exposed, not embraced. Brooke tries to soften the air, to step in as she always does when Ridge is on the verge of collapse. "Daphne," she says softly, her voice cracking under the strain. "I know this isn't how you wanted it, but please, give Ridge a chance." He didn't know. He couldn't have known. Her plea, though well-meaning, only inflames Taylor, who bristles at the idea that Ridge is once again being shielded from his own accountability. He could have known, Brooke, Taylor snaps, her tone icy. He could have paid more attention to the trail of broken hearts he left behind. He could have cared enough to ask questions, to take responsibility. The tension between them flares, their eternal war reignited by the arrival of Daphne. Nick, satisfied that the truth has landed like a thunderbolt, doesn't retreat. He keeps pressing, determined that Ridge will not wriggle free. "You can't smooth this over with apologies, Ridge," he growls. "You can't buy your way out of it or charm your way through it. This is flesh and blood. This is your daughter. And for years, she's lived in the shadows while you've paraded around as the perfect family man." His anger drips with decades of resentment, every word aimed to cut Ridge down. But Eric intervenes, his voice carrying the authority of a man who has lived through generations of scandal, triumph, and loss. "Enough," he bellows, his commanding presence silencing the room. "This is not about grudges or blame. This is about a young woman whose life has been shaped by secrets that should never have been kept. Ridge, you cannot change the past. None of us can. But you can decide what kind of father you will be today. Right now." His words hang heavy, reminding Ridge that this isn't just a moment of shock, it's a crossroads that will define the rest of his life. Daphne wipes her tears, her hands shaking. "I didn't want money," she says quietly, her voice barely audible. "I didn't want a name. I just wanted to know why I wasn't enough to matter to you." Her confession stabs Ridge straight through the chest, because he knows those wounds run deep. He wants to protest, to scream that she was enough, that if he had only known, nothing would have kept him from being by her side. But the truth is, he wasn't there. He missed her first steps, her first words, her first heartbreak. And no apology will ever erase that absence.